Hey, we back. I'm here on Discord, and I'm gonna do a bit of a summary thing on what you should be spending Kakera on, just in general. What order to buy stuff, and kind of an overview of what you can spend it on, what you should be spending on, what's worth spending it on. If you want details on any specific bit, then I think I've done a video on pretty much all the aspects that I'm going to be talking about separately anyway. But now I go over them and kind of mesh them all together. I figure that might be nice. I also might remake them at some point because they are extremely low quality and we've come far in the last few months, but that's another matter. So, where do we start? Well, the first thing that you're spending Kakera on, quite obviously, is your badges. Now, the badge order, there's a lot of debate for that, what order you should buy it in. There's no set way what badges you should buy in what order, because it really does depend on the server. Generally, I would say, again, if you want specifics, go see my badge video. But generally, I'd say you want to go for Gold 4 first, and then Sapphire 4. Of course, you're going to need Silver and Bronze 1 to unlock Sapphire, but once you've got Gold 4 and Sapphire 4, you can buy whatever. I mean, you're going to be wanting Emerald 1, but Emerald 2 and 3 are trash, so don't go past that. And yeah, that's generally the gist of it, Gold 4 and then Sapphire 4, because they are by far the best badges. It does depend on the server, so for example, on my server we have hugely buffed wishes, which makes bronze actually worth having a little bit. I think I got a couple of bronze badges on there a bit earlier on, because it's really cheap anyway. And of course you can buy whatever you want. Another thing to consider is that later on, once you've got a fair bit of Kakera, asking a moderator to refund for you and buying out on Ruby 4 first is a bit more efficient. You can gain a little bit of Kakera like that. But yeah, of course badges is the first thing you want to spend on, but it is not. Nowadays, it is not that you just want to max out your badges first, because we also have KT. KT is pretty good. It's very good, in fact. I've only got a few towers here, but other servers I've got a lot more. If I have a look at here, for example, there we go. It's like an extra tower and a half on here, something like that. Yep. But yeah, the towers are very good, and they start at a cheap price. The default for towers is 5,000 for a floor. We can make some comparisons here to badges, because for example, floor 11 is +1 roll per hour. This is exactly the same as a Sapphire badge. If you buy this first, it costs 5,000, which is exactly the same as Sapphire 1. So that makes this, as a starting floor, basically Sapphire 1. Sapphire 1 is a pretty good badge. Not as good as Sapphire 4, sure, but it's better than Sapphire 1 and 2, so, you know, pretty good. This makes floor 11 a pretty good floor. But one thing you have to consider with the towers is that more towers you buy, the more costly they are. And floor 11 is not the best floor. The best floor is 7 and 8. 7 and 8 are exceptional floors. I would say 8 is better than 7. I did do the maths on this one time to prove it, but it's kind of sketchy maths anyway, so it's not necessarily true, but I am pretty much convinced that floor 8 is slightly better. If you work out how much percentage Kakera you will gain from each floor, 8 does get you more. So 8 is the better badge out of these two, but it's really close. They're both excellent floors. And like I say, as a first floor, they're each going to be only 5,000. What I would suggest is actually, once you've maybe got your Gold 4, your Sapphire 4 and your Emerald 1, before you even go and buy the rest of your badges, get a couple of tower floors. You know, get 7 and 8. Maybe get 10. And maybe get 11. These 4 are by far the best floors. This is why I've got these ones on here first. Coincidence that I've just managed to get them all. But yeah, these are certainly the good badges. You can see this in evidence on my server. Oh yeah, just got Reshivam. Very nice. If I look at my badges here, you can see I've got my Bronze 1 that I mentioned. Got that a bit earlier, but yeah, I've got my Gold 4 now, and now I've got Sapphire 2. Sapphire obviously takes a fair bit to actually get all the way up to 4, but you know, there you go. Now I find myself actually getting quite lucky with the Kakera on here. I do pretty well and I get a fair amount of stuff, so Sapphire 4 is slightly less important perhaps. But if we have a look at this here, right? I've got my floor 7 and I've got my floor 8. And I'm probably going to buy floor 10 before getting Sapphire 3. The other thing to consider is that my next floor costs 15,000. My next Sapphire, 15,000. So if I was to buy floor 11, compare that with the Sapphire badge. If I buy floor 11, then I get the same benefit, but my tower cost goes up. Whereas if I buy Sapphire, my tower cost does not go up. So it would be better at this stage to buy Sapphire 3 than it would be to buy floor 11. But personally, I think floor 10 is a bit better than floor 11, so I'll probably buy floor 10 next. Then Sapphire 3. And then probably Sapphire 4, because then that's the really good one. And then after that, maybe I'll get floor 11. Who knows? That's generally my plan on here. And as you can see, I'm clearly at this stage, once you've got a few badges, interleaving your Kakera tower and your badges, because you kind of need to be getting both of them. The tower is too good to just completely ignore, you know. I wouldn't get too many of them, because especially with stuff like this, are pretty much useless, especially early game. This one is absolutely useless early game and isn't going to be helping you with anything, and this one is just cosmetic. So some of them are certainly not ones to get, but 7, 8, 10 and 11 are great ones. 1 and 2 aren't bad. I mean, 2, if you can compare that to a silver badge, you get double the chance on a silver badge. Well, double the chance from a silver badge. A silver badge is only 25% instead of 50%, but a silver badge affects all your wishes instead of just your first wish. At this stage in the game, you've probably got, I don't know, maybe 10 wish list slots. So the 25% is then multiplied by 10. You get it on 10 wishes instead of 1 wish. Silver badge is clearly far superior to this, and silver badge is not a very good badge. So this is deceptively bad. But it's not useless, so, you know, you'll be getting it eventually. And then, of course, disable lists, I mean, that exists, so, you know, I don't think 1,000 disable list size makes too much difference. But anyway, if you want details on Kakera towers, again, I've got a video on that. But the point is, you want to be interleaving some of these things, especially the 7, 8, 10 and 11. You want to be getting them at the same time as your badges in general, because the badges are not as good as the tower floors, to be perfectly honest. These particular ones, especially since they're so cheap, they're very good. Let me just turn that off. But yeah, so there you go. Kakera towers. Now, what's the other thing you spend Kakera on? Obviously, the other thing is your Kakera loots. Kakera loots are also pretty good, but only when you've got upgrades. Without upgrades, Kakera loots are awful. I will be real with you, they are awful, because try it for yourself. If you haven't got upgrades and you've unlocked them, specific scenario, I know, but have a try. Do a Kakera loot. You're going to get a single roll. Pretty sure. That's almost always what happens, like 80% chance you get a single roll. That doesn't help you. One roll is not worth having, you know. We've got thousands of rolls. Now, this isn't even a good example. We go over to this server. You know, thousands of rolls. I don't use them because I don't really care so much, and we're doing the whole rolls thing series, maybe, if I can be bothered at any rate. So that's a whole nother matter, really. But the point is, one roll just doesn't help you, right? They add up, sure, but only when you've spent, you know, hundreds of thousands on KLs. And this is with upgrades as well. So, yeah, you need your upgrades, basically. And the upgrades, to max out quantity and quality, costs about 2 million Kakera. That's a lot of Kakera, you know. That's a pretty large amount. So you want to avoid putting money into Kakera loots until you've got that, but just sitting around with 2 million Kakera doesn't help you. This is when we then get into the bank video that I made, because what you want to do, instead of just putting it into quantity and quality, or putting it into KLs, putting it into a bit of both, what you do, you put it all into your tower, because you can use this like a bank. You put it all into your tower. You don't put any money, any Kakera into the Kakera loots, not into the upgrades, not into the loots, nothing. You leave it at level 0 and you put it all into your tower. And then when you've got enough stored here, I mean, I can check. How much have I got in my tower right now? And there you go, 2 million. Pretty much perfect. You're going to want a bit more though to actually spend some. But what I could do, suppose I didn't have anything here. I could say, okay then, I'm going to destroy my tower and I'm going to max out the levels. Now like I say, you're going to want a bit extra because the first floor and a half maybe is pretty worth having. And you also have to actually use the KLs, not just get the upgrades. So you probably want to wait until you've got 3 million here rather than 2 million realistically. But when you've got, your 3 million, destroy your tower, rebuy only a couple of floors, maybe one tower and a couple of floors, and then max out your upgrades, all in one fell swoop. You should have a fair amount left over for KLs, and then you can suddenly get a bunch of this. And what you've done is you've converted these floors here into this stuff, right? And that's worth doing, because like I say, you can buy back some of it anyway. So what you're really doing is selling this tower and keeping this one, for example. You still get loads of Kakera because the towers start costing a lot later on. But you exchange for this kind of stuff, which is really good. Right. Now obviously with this server, I've not done it like this because this was before towers. But on my server up here, that's the plan. I'm going to do that when I've got my badges, because this is the other thing. You don't want to start looking towards Kakera loots before you've maxed out your badges. So that's something to consider. Make sure you're putting all of your Kakera into it, because putting it into the upgrades, you get nothing from that, and you can't refund them either. Just put it all into your tower, all your Kakera, and then store it there, and then destroy and turn it into loot later on, if you get what I mean. Now the final thing to spend Kakera on, because believe it or not there is another one that I could think of anyway, and that is trading, which I also have a video on. Trading is actually a reasonable spending of Kakera. I've mentioned this before, but buying waifus in Mudae is a bit like a long-term investment. The value of a character is going to go up the more you've claimed. If I have a look at TSMBR here, there's about 2,000 characters claimed. Right. Now let's have a look at top K. Oh, what is it? Hang on. I need the flag for values without keys. Oh, wait. To make it fair, let's get a fair result here. There definitely is a flag. Kakera base value K minus. There you go. Top K minus. So here we go. 0, 2. 1,500 Kakera. Now let's move over to this server. An extra few hundred characters claimed over here, you see. Let's do top K minus. 0, 2. Worth a fair bit more Kakera. Now, okay, it's not very much Kakera. It's like an extra 50 or so. But it's only a few hundred extra characters claimed. If you, maybe near the start of reset, probably not near the start of the server, because obviously your Kakera can be better spent on badges and towers and whatever else at the start of an actual server. But maybe if it's been reset, there's waifus available to buy and you have the Kakera spare to do it. You could buy 02 when she's worth like 1,000 Kakera. Wait, if it's on a public server, she's going to go up a lot more than that. Let's have a look on here. How much is she worth on here? Actually, not very much. Okay, bad example then, I suppose. She's certainly going to be worth a lot on here. We can find out on here. There you go, over 2,000. If you buy 02 off someone for 1,000 Kakera, now admittedly this is an unrealistic example, no one's going to be selling 02 for Kakera, but just suppose, okay, just suppose they were, then you buy her, you keep her for a few months, and then she's worth double that. You can either sell her on to someone else, you can divorce her, or some sort. Again, 02 is not a great example because, of course, no one's going to be selling her, and you're not going to be divorcing her either, at least you shouldn't be. But the point is, buying waifus is actually a reasonable investment. If you consistently buy them, you will actually gain more Kakera than you would do putting it into loots or towers or something like that when you're in the late game. Because the increase in Kakera that you gain from Kakera loots and Kakera towers is exponentially small, in that the longer you've been playing Mudae on that server, the less Kakera gain that you get for your Kakera spent. Which is why actually investing in waifus late game is a reasonable thing to do. Now, like I say, this is late game. This is after you've got all your badges, you've probably maxed out your Kakera loots, upgrades, and you've already got tons of Kakera loots. You've got loads of towers. The other option is when you're saving up for your Kakera loots upgrades. You could do it then as well, because you won't really have much to spend on at that point if you've got a big tower and you're waiting still for that 3 million mark or so. Buying into these top waifus, if there's any that you can get, they don't have to be this high ranked, you know, someone in 200th will still go up in a lot of Kakera. But someone that's worth Kakera, if you can persuade people to sell them to you for near their value, it doesn't have to be exact, you know. Okay, maybe 02 is worth 1,000 Kakera and you buy her for 1,200. You still gain 1,000 Kakera in this time. And this is not a big server. We've been going a long time, but there's only a few active people on here, right? If you're on a big public server, the value is going to go up a lot more than this. And you can see this from examples like the official Mudae server, where everyone on this top 15 leaderboard is probably worth 150,000 Kakera, you know? If you bought 02 for 1,000 Kakera and then sold for 150,000, you are in the stocks, my friend. But yes, so that is actually a valid thing to spend Kakera on late game, if you don't think you'll be getting much worth from the actual upgrades. Of course, that relies on someone willing to sell their waifus to you, but that all depends on the server you're on, doesn't it? But anyway, I think that's the 4 main things that you will be spending Kakera on. There is perhaps a couple of other weird things that you can try doing, but all in all, that is about it. So I will leave this one here, and you can enjoy spending your Kakera on hopefully sensible things. Bye!